Today's training topic, we're going to talk about suggested apparatus dispatching. In the suggested apparatus dispatching or auto dispatching, we're going to talk about the purpose, the changes that we'll see take place, the process, the time frame in which they will take place, and any questions that may arise from this change. The purpose for automatic dispatching is to have a systematic approach to dispatching, maximizing the efficiency of the resources available and to meet ISO standards, as well as reduce the operational and maintenance costs. Some of the changes that we'll see in the automatic dispatching, the first one is Battalion 1 is replacing Command A, B, or C. This will be heard over the radio. We'll be dispatched to all wrecks with injuries. We'll have selected apparatus dispatching, which we'll explain later. The response zones will change, as well as our station alerting. Battalion 1. Battalion 1 is replacing Command A, B, and C. And ERS F6 still identifies Battalion 1, or you'll notice as OXBAT1 in the ERS system. On our CAD system, you'll notice OXBAT1 replaces OXCOMABC. Changes with the REX. Currently we run entrapment and unknown entrapment. We'll move into running all wrecks with injuries. Suggested apparatus dispatching is determined by natures and location. Will be dispatched as emergency or non-emergency. Will be dispatched in the order of first, second, and third due, and the dispatch times will show in ERS. Some noticeable changes with suggested apparatus dispatching. With REX, only one engine is dispatched. The first due engine will be dispatched. We can request additional units if needed. Battalion 1 is self-dispatched. Other noticeable changes that we'll see with suggested apparatus dispatching in the fire alarms. We'll still have the normal apparatus response in regards to which apparatuses go. However, the first due engine runs emergency. All additional units respond non-emergency or is dispatched by 911. That first due engine can upgrade the call as needed, which will ultimately change the response of the apparatuses going non-emergency. Other noticeable changes with suggested apparatus dispatching will be found with Ladder 2. In regards to residential alarms, Ladder 2 will be responding in specific neighborhoods, such as Cider Ridge, Meadow Lakes, Legacy Lane, Woodbridge Crossing, and Woodwood Estates. So if there's a fire alarm or a structure fire in these areas, Ladder 2 will be dispatched rather than Engine 2. On technical rescue natures, an engine and rescue is dispatched. The rescue and engine should come from the first due station, and special operations trailers should be deployed if needed. In regards to the changes in the response zones, Station 1's first due is extended to all of Station 6 coverage area. That'll be Gidley Road and Knoxville Circle. Station 2's coverage area, the second due for all of Station 1 coverage area moves to Stanley Merrill Drive, which includes the Pine Cliff neighborhood. Currently, Station 2 runs back up to Berry Street. That line from Berry Street is moving to Stanley Merrill Drive, which will include the Pine Cliff neighborhood you can see on the map on the right. The Station 3 coverage area, their first due covers all the way up to Gidley Road. The Station 3 runs second due for Station 6 coverage area, which will be up to Stanley Merrill Drive. So again, Station 3's coverage area, their first due of their primary coverage area is their territory, which goes all the way up to Gidley Road, and then runs second due for Station 6 coverage area up to Stanley Merrill Drive. We won't see that many changes with station alerting. We'll still have the active 911 alerts, and we'll still be notified through the 800 radio systems. And the stations will still be alerted as well. However, as we move through this process, only the stations that have dispatch apparatuses will be alerted. The process of dispatching will still have the normal alerting process. Will be dispatched in response order. For instance, if engine 1 is announced first, that's first their first due, their primary. If engine 3 comes next, that's the second due. Engine 3 will be second due, and so on and so on. The first apparatus called is the primary zone and will be dispatched as emergency or non-emergency. Here's a dispatch example. Oxford Engine 1 emergency, be en route to a wreck with injuries. As you can see, Engine 1 is the first apparatus called. That's the apparatus dispatch. It's in their primary coverage area, and it tells you how to respond, emergency, and it tells you the nature, wreck with injuries. Very similar to what we do now. Our second dispatch example has multiple apparatuses that are dispatched. As you can see, Engine 2 is a primary coverage area because they're listed first. Engine 2, Engine 1, Battalion 1 are all called to run emergency. Engine 3 and Rescue 3 are called to run non-emergency. And then it gives us the nature with being en route to structure fire. Here's some actual dispatch examples that you should hear.
Oxford Engine 1, vehicle accident with injuries and entrapment.
Oxford Engine 1, Engine 2, Rescue 3, Battalion 1, Ladder 1, Emergency, Oxford Engine 3, Non-Emergency, Commercial Structure Fire. Oxford Engine 3, Engine 1, Rescue 2, Battalion 1, Emergency, Oxford Engine 2, Non-Emergency, Building Collapse.
If the dispatch apparatus is on a call or out of service, the second due apparatus will be dispatched. If an apparatus dispatch does not go en route to a call, notify 911 of its replacement apparatus en route. For example, Ladder 2 is dispatched, but Engine 2 crew is working chock-a-block apart. The correct response to 911 would be, Engine 2 will be en route in place of Ladder 2. If the dispatch apparatus needs additional assistance, for instance on a wreck, dispatch may have the second engine or rescue. 911 will dispatch the second unit in line. If we're called to a brush fire near a structure, and it's a structure on fire upon arrival, the engine crew or the first on scene would call dispatch. Dispatch upgrade this call to a structure fire, and then dispatch will dispatch the appropriate apparatuses. A time frame that we can see these changes: the Battalion 1 call sign will change on May 1st. The response zones will change on May 1st as well. And dispatching of all wrecks with injuries and one engine response will also occur on May 1st. The suggested apparatus dispatching will start on May 16th, and individual station alerting should start on June 30th. A few questions that may come up during this change. What if my apparatus is dispatched while we are refueling? If you are delayed in responding, ask dispatch to roll the next apparatus. What if my apparatus is on a work detail and will not be available for calls? Communicate with dispatch that you are out of service and the second due apparatus will be dispatched if a call is received. Notify dispatch when your detail is complete and you are in service. Can the suggested response be changed based on the severity of the call? Yes. Additional units can be requested at any time. For instance, if we're dispatched to a wreck on I-20 that involves 4 vehicles and multiple entrapments, that engine or battalion chief can go ahead and upgrade the call and call for another engine or a rescue truck to be en route as well. How do I change the suggested response based on the severity of the call? That's simple. Just ask 911 to dispatch additional units. 911 will dispatch a second and third due if necessary. What if all units are dedicated to a call and an additional call comes in? 911 will notify Battalion 1 of the additional call. Battalion 1 will either dispatch units of choice or roll the call to another agency. What if an unreplaceable apparatus is out of service for an extended period of time? For instance, ladder trucks, the tanker, the rescue trucks. Notify 911 that that apparatus will be out of service for an extended period of time. 911 will then roll the Ladder 1 calls to Ladder 2. Be sure to let 911 know when the apparatus is back in service. This shouldn't apply to any of our frontline engines because we do have backups and reserves there. So if we're in a backup engine for or engine 1 is running in a backup engine, there's no need to call 911 and let them know that you're in a backup engine. If an out-of-service apparatus is dispatched, self-dispatch the correct apparatus. For instance, ladder 2 will run in ladder 1's place. And 911 will make that change. What if I change the dispatch apparatus and the dispatch time does not appear? It's simple. We'll just enter the time the apparatus was dispatched. Please do not enter the alarm time and the dispatch time. Things to remember about suggested apparatus dispatching. It's a work in progress. We'll have an ERS dispatch question at the end of every report, and the question will be, were correct apparatuses dispatched? If they were not correctly dispatched, please check no and briefly describe what apparatuses should have went and which ones should not have went. A complete list of apparatuses responses by nature is available. We still need to continue to call in territory and in quarters, and dispatch time should auto-populate in ERS now. In efforts to move this change along, if you don't mind, please log radio issues into ERS maintenance, log CAD issues into ERS maintenance, and email or tag Lieutenant Walsh in radio and CAD maintenance tickets in ERS so we can combat any issues that come up with suggested apparatus dispatching.